Ghost Cult Zine welcomes in our good friend and immense talent, Duncan Evans. How are you doing today?
Hello. Yes, I'm not bad at all. Thank you, Keithy. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good, all things considering. Happy weekend to you. Thanks for making the time. So much stuff to unfurl. Congratulations on the new release for the Moonlow project. Lovely record, fantastic experience listening to it. I did my first listen through on this record once I had heard the first track in a dark room with not just laying down and listening to it in the dark.
Wow.
It's perfect mood music. It's perfect October music. I'm into scary and spooky and creepy and weird and wonderful things. And thank you first and foremost on behalf of all music fans for not calling this thing 2020 COVID release, coronavirus album, none of those things.
Yeah, no, it's not those things. It's not those things. Yeah, lying on your back in the dark, that's kind of how I would like people to listen to this album. So yeah, I'm glad you did it that way. It's great.
Yeah, I just did start like I heard the first that single and then I was like, okay, this is not anything you have done before. This is total not traditional. This is, truly experimental and avant-garde music, and I'm all here for it. And actually, it really goes back to the roots of Ghost Cult because originally we started as a zine that was really only to cover sort of avant-garde, stoner doom, and like horrible music, really,
Mm.
jarring, extreme music, and kind of took me back to I haven't had a chance to really delve into those genres as much this year, or just off center music, if you will. So I really want to sort of start with you. For those that don't know you, you solo project, you've been in some well-known bands, but obviously I wanted to hear about the genesis of this inspiration that led you to create this project.
Yeah. So okay. So the project's called Moonlow, and yeah, it's a weird thing because I call myself Dust for Moonlow, but obviously I am Duncan Evans. At first, I was maybe thinking of going completely anonymous, but then that became too ridiculous, too annoying to keep up. So okay, look, the genesis of it. So basically, as much as I've said it's not a Corona album, and it really isn't, but like just about everything else, it has been influenced by the situation because I guess you can't get away from it. So yeah, basically, I got ill. And this was just before lockdown, like probably a week before lockdown in the UK, which I think happened around the same time in the US. So we're talking about mid-March when I got ill, and I'd had a few messages from my doctors sort of saying, this is kind of a serious thing. If you've got flu-like symptoms, you need to not come in to the doctors. You need to self-isolate, all this stuff. So anyway, I ended up self-isolating with what was, I don't know if it was COVID or not, but I think it probably was, because it was flu that lasted for ages, like 25 days or something. But anyway, around that time, I was kind of building up this creative energy. So there was, I don't know, I had a desire to do something new musically. And when I had to self-isolate, even though I was ill, I just kind of started to throw myself into creating this new thing. And I started messing around because I was for complicated reasons, but because I'd moved house, but some of my stuff was still at my parents' house, actually. So I didn't have my full studio here. So I started messing around with synths, with software synths, and I just started creating these ideas, which I started to think, actually, this is cool. Number one, I like it. I want to do something with this. And number two, it was like, this isn't Duncan Evans music. This is not my solo project. This is something else. And then I started writing lyrics as well. And they were really flowing out. And the first 9, there's 10 tracks. Track 10 is called Next, but track 1 to 9 are called Day 1, Day 2, Day 3, and they have a subtitle as well, which comes from the lyrics. But so I actually wrote those lyrics over 9 days, hardly edited them at all afterwards, and it was just kind of how I was feeling, because I think with the world going crazy, as I kind of was watching from self-isolation, watching the world go crazy with this whole COVID thing. And it's not about that. It's not like I'm writing everybody's in lockdown. It's nothing to do with that. It was just like I was having these crazy feelings and being ill and seeing the world go crazy. And it felt it partly felt like the end of the world, but it also partly felt like this whole new world. I don't know. And I just started pouring these feelings out into lyrics, and then yeah, that was it basically. So pretty soon I realized I had something new that was going to be a different project. Yeah, that was the genesis of it basically.
Yeah, it's definitely very eclectic. I love the I don't know what else to call it except this very doomy choir that opens the record. It's very jarring and alerting, and is a beautiful table setter to the rest of the piece. I kind of think of it less as a bunch of tracks and more like one grand piece altogether, like a Pink Floyd album or something, as most good experimental music is. And the final track is a little more of your traditional stuff, but even that it's a bit obtuse for you. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
you've never been an artist who is like, oh, this is what it is. This is what it is, which I appreciate because it makes the listener think and learn and grow with whatever you're listening to. But yeah, it's such a great approach, and you certainly rose to whatever occasion, whatever goals you had. It seems like you hit all the things,
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it was a totally different approach, and a big part of it was improvisation. So normally, if I was doing my own stuff or stuff for a lot of bands that I've been in, I spend a lot of time crafting the songs, rewriting the lyrics, and then putting little bits of riffs together, then changing them, and then recording them in demo form, and then changing them, and all this stuff. I took a completely different approach with Moonlow, where like I'd written the lyrics very quickly, like I said, and what I would do is I would basically get the lyrics up for one song, and then I would kind of just look at them and kind of think, right, what sort of sound might work for this? Do I want it to be really abrasive? Do I want it to be really relaxed and ambient and calm? And then I would find a synth sound which matched that. And then I would sometimes plan a little bit, just put a few chords together and things. But actually, I was very led by, once I'd found the sound, the synth sound, I was led by that. And I just kind of hit record, went for it, and just played for a few minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And yeah, and then sometimes I messed it up and I did a bit that I didn't like and did a retake, but a lot of the time it was the first take. And it was the same with the lyrics. Like because there was maybe a few synth sounds I'd layer up, but not that many. It's quite sparse and quite kind of minimalistic. And when it came to delivering the lyrics, again, I would get the music that I'd recorded, and I would just basically hit record and just. I knew I was going to kind of do it in a spoken word style, but I just let the voice kind of come out. I didn't know which bits I was going to scream, which bits I was going to shout, which bits I was going to whisper, or where in the song I was necessarily going to say these words. I just let it flow. Yeah, and that's it. So this improvisational approach was a really big part of it. Very much like almost like the whole idea of automatic writing, just like letting it flow, and whatever comes out, that's the thing, that's the final version. And I really enjoyed it. It was really kind of liberating working in that I guess less structured way. And then what I would also do when I came onto the next track, I would always just listen to the track before and hear how it ended. And as you alluded to, like it is supposed to be listened to kind of in one go. So I would listen to the end, and then I would get a next chord that would sometimes it would be the same chord, so it would kind of flow straight in, or sometimes it would be purposefully something totally different that would jar. But I would always have the end of the last track in mind when I started doing the next one, basically. Yeah, so that's how it happened. That's the different approach, really.
Dig it, man. I dig it. And I really love there's a really great drony nature to some of the tracks that really suit the lyrics, which come across like a very mantra like, which is great. And also a bit atypical also, not very traditional, but, very like chanty and spoken word. It's just really fits together the words and the music and, your occasional vocal east and things in there. Um, Again, like you said, liberating. It's got to be like a really like a reset for your standard, more traditional stuff or your other collaborations, which are completely different from this.
Yeah, I think so. It was really nice. I mean, it's one of those things where I think I've heard it said before that sometimes when you work in a style, or a genre that you're kind of not supposed to be working in because it's not really your normal thing, it can be really freeing because you just do what you want and you don't worry about, oh, does it sound a bit too much like my previous thing, or oh, does it sound a bit too much like that? So yeah, kind of, I mean, I do listen to some bits of noisy music and ambient music and stuff, but I'm not a big aficionado of either. Like when I've done some interviews and seen some reviews, they've mentioned bands that I've never heard of, and I've thought, oh, cool, I'll check that out. And so, yes, it was very much like, it's a strange thing because by kind of pretending to be almost a character, by taking on this persona of Dust and by breaking out of being just me, it's like actually I could almost be more personal with it because I could just be completely natural, just speak the words, scream the words, make noises, whatever, and just really, really let it flow without any worry about, oh, is anyone going to like this? Is it going to fit with my previous record? Is the label going to like it? There was none of that. It was just, this is music and I like it. It's making me, I'm enjoying it. I'm getting something out of it. It's kind of cathartic. So yes, so absolutely, it was definitely a bit of a reset in that sense. Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say Trepanation, right, is the label, and they're a bit underappreciated and under the radar a little. So I wanted to ask about, it's also a change of things to go with them, and what attracted you to work with them?
Yeah, well, it was one of those serendipitous things. So I'd met Dan. So Dan Dolby runs Trepanation Recordings, and he's a great guy. And I worked with it. Well, kind of worked with him when I was asked last year to do a couple of guest spots with a great band, also a bit noisy, kind of black metal noise, doom, experimental, called Crowhurst, from Philadelphia. And they came over to the UK and did a short mini tour, and they asked me to guest on a cover of a track by a band called the Scud Mountain Boys, which was a really cool track called "There Is No Hell Like the Hell on This Earth." So I learned the track, I met up with them, and I did the two shows. And at the second show, which was actually in my hometown of Leeds, Dan Dolby also guested on a different track and did his kind of noise ambient thing. Like he plays in a few bands, Catafalque and Mastiff being the main two, but he's also got another project which I've completely forgotten the name of. But anyway, he does noisy stuff as well as kind of hardcore and doomy, horrible rock sort of stuff. So he did some really cool ambient noisy stuff, and I think probably after that I must have followed him on the social media and he followed me. Do conversations with him about cool music because it turns out he likes a lot of the same stuff as me, a lot of 90s stuff, a lot of kind of I guess grunge and alternative rock, as well as the more noisy harsh end of things. And I knew he released kind of noisy music on Trepanation, so when this started to actually take shape, and when I realized I did want to release it, and I thought about labels, I thought of him straight away. But I didn't actually have to ask him because I put a post out, I think it was on Twitter, where I just said, hey guys, I'm doing this thing at the moment. It's kind of noise, ambient, spoken word. Who would be interested in hearing it when it's done? And quite a few people said they would, which was nice, but Dan Dolby from Trepanation Recordings straight away said, yeah, man, not only would I be interested in hearing it, but this sounds like the sort of thing that we might be interested in releasing. So please do send it to us. So that's how it came about. I have to say, it's been really cool because, I've worked with Prophecy Productions, who are a slightly bigger label, and that's been great. But one thing that is noticeable, I think the bigger the label, it's kind of like if you're not one of the biggest artists on the label, you don't get prioritized, and that's completely understandable. I'm not blaming anybody or anything like that, but it's like sometimes it can take quite a few weeks maybe to get an email replied to and to get the ball rolling with things on a slightly bigger label. Whereas with Dan, basically I can text him at any time, pretty much day or night, and he replies usually within like 1 minute. So we just got everything sorted really quickly. And it's cool, and doing a small batch to start with is great, because it meant that I went to meet Dan a week ago. Actually, it was last week, and signed and hand numbered the copies. So it makes it a limited edition kind of special thing. And hopefully, if we do sell them out and do another run, then it means this run was special. It's the only one that's going to be hand numbered and signed in that way. So yeah, but you're right. It would be great if Dan and Trepanation had even more of a following. So follow Trepanation Recordings. There's some absolutely great music on there.
Indeed, I'm a fan of Dan's also, and Crowhurst actually. I love Mastiff as a band that I'm a fan of, and I've seen Crowhurst live, so I'm very interested in hearing more from this, someday, perhaps this team up. And I will also want to shout out the artwork and the packaging. Obviously, I don't have one here physically, but I love the design. I love the cover image, and I love the cassette. The sort of cassette package. It is gorgeous looking.
Yeah, it came out really, really nicely. Alex Trinkle, who is over in Austria, and he goes by the name of Irvish, which in German means kind of like imp or demon or something like that. I think it means imp creature. So he does some great stuff, and I first came across his work when he curated the art for the 2017 Prophecy Festival, which is a brilliant festival in a cave in Germany. It's amazing, actually, really, really cool. But yeah, so he basically designed a flyer and poster for every single one of the bands that were on the show, and I just thought his work was really cool. I liked his approach. And he did the art for my last solo album, Prayers for an Absentee, and he was great to work with, and he charged a reasonable price. It was affordable for me and all that sort of stuff. So he was the first person I thought of. And we had to work really fast because it all came together quite quick. And working with our mutual friend Curtis Dewar, he kind of said, right, let's do a PR campaign, and you kind of need to start that 4 months before the release. And it's like, okay, that's great, but at the time that was like, okay, that's a month away and we haven't got any artwork or anything. I don't think I'd even quite finished the recording, so it was quite fast paced. But I sketched out a rough design which looked absolutely terrible. I probably got the sheet somewhere, I don't know. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was just because I can't draw, I can't do it. It was like scribbles and loads of writing saying like, make this bit really whitish, bright white, whatever. And then actually Alex he used most of what I suggested, but he also took his own approach and put his own ideas into it. So it's this very simplistic design. I was very influenced by like the art of David Tibet from Current 93, who I'm a pretty big fan of. So I set the reference material I sent to Alex was Current 93 stuff, maybe one or two other things, I can't remember now. Yeah, and I'm really pleased with how it came out. And also a part of that was a friend of mine, Mark Hillier, who is a brilliant photographer who runs a photo studio just near Leeds in a place called Pontefract in Yorkshire, UK. And he did some fantastic photos of me kind of as dust in character with like as covering over my face and head. And there's an image of me like with my back to the camera with my arms out, which was quite striking, if I do say so myself, and that's a big prominent part of the album art as well. And the logo, and Alex did a great job with the logo as well, like almost like a constellation joining together stars I like the fact that he took Moonlow, which is one word, and he stacked it. So it's Moonlow, kind of like Dark Throne, which is a nice little reference there. So yeah, I like it, man.
I love it also, and I do like. There's a sense of direction and gravity by design on the cover that I really love. And again, it just goes with the music. It's very rare that you get a combination of an artist and a musician to come together and kind of it just clicks. And either things are too on the nose or too obvious or too, I don't know, too plain for me personally and my aesthetic. But I dig this a lot. This is, like I said, fantastic, moody, interesting music. Very much an album for this year, although not about this year. And obviously I'm sorry you were ill, and I'm sad for anybody that's been ill. I was ill to start the year. I probably had it. It's been horrible. And I'm hearing stories now where people have lingering illnesses as a result of this, or their overall well-being is diminished because of having had this. So on to the positive sense, I know you are one of the hardest working musicians I know. I know you have a day job, but you work at music constantly and you share about this constantly. So I know you are working towards several projects at once, recording, writing, planning, everything. What's in the works for the future, and what can we look forward to that you were ready to talk about?
Yeah, and thank you for the compliments there. I appreciate it. Yeah, so it's interesting because you said that you mentioned Crowhurst. So that there is a collaboration in the works between myself and Jay Gambit from Crowhurst. So that is a covers album, a kind of acoustic covers album, and I believe we're just going to use our two names for that. So I've recorded my guitar parts. And Jay is around now. I'm not sure. I think he's recorded some of the vocals, and he will be recording more over the next few weeks. Yeah, so I won't tell you all the tracks on there, but we have talked about it a bit on social media. So for example, there's a Bruce Springsteen song on there from the Nebraska album. There's also a song there's that Scud Mountain Boys song that I mentioned. There's an REM song. What else is there? There's a song by Botch. So it's quite an odd mix, but Jay chose the tracks, and they're all tracks that work well acoustically. So it's kind of slightly raw, slightly rough. We're kind of using that Bruce Springsteen Nebraska idea as a bit of a template. So that's it's going to be a little bit lo-fi. I'm really looking forward to hearing what Jay does with the vocals on that. And there may be some future stuff in the works with Jay as well, which I won't say any more about that because we're not even quite sure ourselves, but we've talked about maybe doing some other stuff as well. And yeah, the other thing that I'm just finishing at the moment, which is nearly there, is I've got a split album which will be coming out, which will actually also be on Trepanation, which is it's scheduled for September 2021, and that is going to be a split album between me as Duncan Evans rather than Moonlow, and a guy called Javier Wallace, who's based in the Netherlands, but was from Manchester before that in the UK, and he goes by the name of Wilderness Hymnal. And his music sounds a bit like Ulver. It's that kind of more synth-based music, but very much kind of dark, folky, dark, slightly, I don't know, you might call it gothic, popish, slightly alternative avant-garde, not metal, but definitely kind of metal adjacent, if you want to call it that. Really cool. So we've actually done a collaboration track on there as well, which was co-written, and we both played on. That's mixed. I'm just finishing off the mixing of a couple of my songs, and Javier's just finishing at the same stage with his. And it's going to be slightly different. It's still Duncan Evans. It's still going to be my sort of songwriting style, my style of lyrics, but there's not many guitars on it. I've used more synths actually, not in a noise way, not really like Moonlow, but and the songs are still structured as more traditional songs, if you want to call it that. But yeah, it's more synth based, and I've really enjoyed working in that way. So that is next, and then there will also be wow, there's two other things actually. So there's the next Duncan Evans album, full album. There's a lot of bits written. I don't know when that's going to be out yet. We've been a bit stifled by lockdown restrictions, which are coming back in, so we can't rehearse at the moment and all sorts of stuff like this. But that will happen at some point. And then finally, there's also going to be a thing called Waxworm, which is me and a guy called Arthur Brown, who's over in Australia, in Sydney. And but we used to live in a shared house in Leeds, UK, and we worked on and off with tracks, both when we lived together and then remotely for actually several years. And there's these few tracks. Well, there's an album's worth of tracks that are kind of sitting there, and it looks like we might have secured a release for that as well. That's more industrial-ish music. So anyway, plenty of stuff going on to look out for. But I enjoy it. I like it that way, really. So yes.
Nice. I like the how eclectic everything is. I'm a big Wilderness Hymnal fan. I'm also quite the big dark folk. I'm also quite the big industrial music fan. So all those things, all those boxes get ticked. If I wasn't fond of you personally, Duncan, and having gotten to know you over social media and work with you a little bit, I love what you put down musically. I love your approach to art. It's very inspiring as a former regular artist, which I'm really not anymore. But we need more stuff like this. Risk takers. Nothing held back, because I think we live in a time. We're coming through a time, a very puritanical time, where society is like, no, you shouldn't do that, or you can't do this, or you're relegated to the confines of this. And I like seeing artists and art that says, no way, I'm going to do this, my thing, my way, and pave your own path. And I'm a big supporter of anybody who's doing that. So thank you. Yeah, we'll link all this stuff in the descriptions, all your links. Maybe a link tree is appropriate for you, because all the links and all the band camps and all the assorted things. But yeah, man, it's just been marvelous getting to know you and follow this story and share this story. It's been great.
Yeah, well, likewise, man. No, thank you so much for all the support and everything else. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and thanks for chatting to me. It's great to talk about these things. It's great to spread the words. Yeah, man, really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
All the best, and I'll catch up with you very soon, later today.
Thank you. Yes, see you again soon, Keefe. Yeah, cheers.